we're back. Back here. There we go. All right. So this is what, chapter 10. Okay. So we have chapter 10, chapter 11, and an epilogue chapter left. So we're almost done. Hi, DA. Hello. Thank you for the hydrate. Much needed. So I had to get up and do a couple of things real quick. So, but yeah, we're almost done. Alright. And of course we got a little time skip 3 months later. So in the last chapter. So just to kind of refresh. Yeah, I know I've drank a lot. Cat Carnage turned babyface, and the reception was very well received. And Chris's mother decides to be a bitch. And Jisung confessed his love. Unintentionally, but it worked. And now here we are, 3 months later. Chris paced around backstage, gearing up for her promo segment. KCW was only a month out from their biggest show of the year, Call of the Champions. It was Chris's job to go out and cut a promo to drive home why she needs the KGP Women's Championship. Her babyface turn ended up being the best decision for the company. Engagement was at an all-time high as people invested in Cat Carnage's journey to the top after being brutally injured. Being a heel most of her career, Cat Carnage played the babyface very well. Her straightforward attitude and sheer determination for revenge drove her character to an astronomical levels of over. Because, a quick little thing here, over in wrestling means you're very well liked. People like you. The behind-the-scenes drama helped push her over as well. UJ1 faced several lawsuits and allegations of blatant favoritism. Biggest example was keeping Rim Tanaka a babyface despite her brutally beating Kat and not listening to Kat's instructions. As soon as Shim Changmin took over creative, talent morale was boosted and stories changed to fit the characters better. Certain wrestlers were given proper build-ups to matches. Others were given the opportunity to show their character range. And the correct talent were given pushes. Changmin walked over to Chris and patted her shoulder. And just like always, big show is in a month. Let them know why you need this championship. Hashtag she said go home. Damn right she did. Alright, he told her calmly. Chris nodded to his words and bowed slightly. I can't thank you enough for your help, she expressed her gratitude. We're not through the woods yet, Changmin chuckled as he nudged her towards the stage. The music played and cheers were erupting loudly. Switching to her character, Kat walked out and smiled to the crowd. Kat walked out and smiled to the crowd. She gave out a few high fives before making her way to the ring. She waited for the cheers to die down a little before speaking. Busan, can I hear your cat calls? Kat smiled at the crowd, and they reacted with various cheers and whistles. Now, Call of the Champions is quickly approaching, and I haven't heard a peep out of Miss Rim Tanaka. The crowd booed when Rim's name was spoken. Ever since I defeated every single woman on the roster aside from her, she's been nowhere to be seen. What kind of champion does that? Even people who think they're big and bad still fight to defend their title. What's Rim doing? She's running away because she knows I can and will kick her ass. Crowd cheers. It's no one's surprise that I was out of action for a few months. I was beaten up so bad and left there to bleed like she didn't care. She was your hero at the time. Not all heroes are good. Not all villains are bad. I am here for my own personal gain. But along the way, I've set a new goal. I want to be a champion you can be proud of. And the first step is to become your new KGP Women's Champion. Kat delivered her message directly into the camera. Knowing who was watching, she gave a small wink and dropped the mic and walked out of the ring. Thud. Sounds like that should be the last box. Jisung cheered to himself as he dusted off his hands. Wild applause. Thank you, Alicia. That should be the last box, Jisung cheered to himself as he dusted off his hands. For you, at least, Mino grumbled as he carried in a bigger box and gently placed it on the floor. You just had to ask me to help you move, huh? He bitterly asked. You have been my housemate for a few years now, Jisung casually said as he looked around the new house. Of course you're the first person I go to when I need help. I love you, man. Ew, gross. Mino immediately replied before Jisung hugged him suddenly. Again, gross. You love it, Jisung teased as he let go and started organizing the boxes. She said to just start unpacking and she'll be here after her gym session. He called out as he started unpacking the big box labeled kitchen. Mino followed Jisung to help him find a place for things. With the two of them working together, they managed to put together 2 rooms before Chris arrived. She walked in the door and found no sign of Jisung and Mino. She ventured deeper into the new house to the master bedroom. She stopped in her tracks when she saw Mino trapping Jisung to the wall as they were both trying to hang up a wall decoration. Or hang up wall decorations. Jisung, if you're going to cheat on me, at least find someone better than Mino, Chris bluntly said, mostly to get their attention. Jisung about fell over from being startled, and Mino caught him by the waist, which was not helping the imagery. Bitch, please, I'm the only one who's good enough for him to cheat on you with, Mino joked back at the same blunt toe Chris used earlier. Jisung was looking extra flustered by their banter. Mino decided to push Jisung in Chris's direction. Chris stopped him from stumbling too far with a chuckle. Hashtag beach please. Please, yeah. I see you guys are making progress, she commented, deciding to save Jisung the embarrassment and change the subject. Hashtag peach please. We've got the kitchen and the living room done. Not everything is put away for our bedroom, Jisung answered, cheeks still a little flushed from earlier. Hi, Bradley. Hi. I would sure hope so. I don't want Mino rummaging through my things. Chris replied as she gave Mino a strange look. I already knew everything about you before you and Jisung started dating, Mino shot back. It's exactly why I don't want you in my things. Chris fired right back at Mino. Mino stared at Chris. He walked up to her and stood face to face. He had to tilt his neck up slightly to look her in the eyes. They stared at one another for a few moments. Jisung's gaze swapped between the two for a split second before he nudged himself between the two. Okay, I think we can get started on the office? Jisung offered to break this fake tension between Mino and Chris. All right, Chris shrugged as she walked across the hall to the bedroom converted to office. I've been wondering how you're able to help with such a busy schedule. Mino spoke his thoughts as he started grabbing things from the boxes. You mean with the KCW's biggest show of the year in 2 weeks? And that I'm here moving in my own house when I could be training and working on the match with someone who could care less about working with me? Chris spat out the questions bluntly. Yeah, this is child's play compared to that. I'll take the break. Thank you for the hydrate and the posture check, DA.
Hi.
Take the break. Thank you. Yes, of course, take the break. Ow, my back popped. Plus, your mother has no clue about this place, Jisung chimed in as he started placing some music equipment on the desk. That too, Chris replied as she handed some knick-knack to Jisung. How are you feeling about it? Your championship match? Mino asked. Chris shrugged before answering. It's arguably the biggest match of my career thus far. Both Chris and Tessa are taking the break. Yes. It's arguably the biggest match in my career thus far. Nobody has told me anything on who's going over. There's no guarantee I'm winning the championship. I think it's likely you're walking out of the show a champion, Jisung said as he sat in his chair, fiddling with the stuff on his desk. My job is to get people on my side to cheer me on, and I've accomplished that, Chris replied logically. I also don't want to get my hopes up for anything. I'm just there to put on a show. You're going to put on a good show no matter what, Mino said, dumping out a random assortment of papers from a box. I appreciate that, Mino, Chris replied as she stared at the papers. Jisung, what are these papers? She asked as she grabbed one and glossed through the words. Her expression changed as she kept reading through the paper. Which one did you grab? Mino asked as he scooted over next to Chris and read the paper. Oh, that's from Suji, Autumn's friend. I believe this was a letter of confession after Jisung and Autumn broke up. And why do you still have this? Chris asked, giving the paper a disgusted look. It's so I can feel better about myself and my ability to write, Jisung immediately replied. Suddenly, I'm glad I have good Korean skills, Chris mumbled to herself as she handed the paper to Mino. Hold on real quick, I'm so sorry. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Let me get something again. Alright. Suddenly, I'm glad I have good Korean skills, Chris mumbled to herself as she handed the paper to Mino. You're like a quarter Korean? Mino asked, and Jisung did a double take. It's complicated, Chris replied. This is news to me. Jisung seemed confused. Did you think my blue eyes weren't natural? Chris bluntly asked. I just thought your eyes were pretty, Jisung shrugged. Mino facepalmed and Chris shook her head in disappointment. Jisung, my info is out there. Just look it up. Chris sighed in defeat. I have Mino for that, Jisung innocently replied as he pointed to Mino. I work part-time as a private investigator, didn't you know? Mino looked at Chris. I find that hard to believe, Chris chuckled as she looked through more papers. Is there anything you would use a private investigator for? Jisung asked, half joking, half serious. Chris hummed in response as she found a picture of Jisung and his father. Jisung and Mino shot one another a look after noticing Chris's somber expression. Now, as we know, it was stated in earlier chapters that Chris's father was just not in the picture. So, you sure this is a good idea? I think it's an idea. That's not helping. I think she'll be very appreciative. Plus, he said he's been trying to reach out for years. What a time to pull this off. If she doesn't fuck you into oblivion after you do this, then this relationship is done. Mino, just shut up. We got 2 chapters left. I'm excited. Grab a drink real quick.
NANI?
Nani? Alright. The cool morning air felt sharper than usual. Maybe it was the anticipation of the events that would transpire later in the evening. Chris took a deep breath as she took in the stage. She blocked through her entrance as asked for her rehearsals. She got to the ring and found Jiwoo talking to Jisung in the front row. When she was finished with her rehearsal, she made her way towards the two. "Looking good!" Jisung cheered. "There's our champion in the making!" Jiwoo cheered alongside Jisung. "Nobody's told me if I'm going over yet or not." "Yo, champ in the making!" Yes. Chris chuckled at the ecstatic cheers. "You've got it. So I don't see a reason for you not to go over," Jiwoo replied, doing wild hand gestures in an attempt to get his point across. "I don't either," Jisung replied as he held Chris's hands. "No matter the outcome, you're gonna kill it out there," he smiled as he leaned in to kiss her cheek. Chris scrunched her face at the blatant show of affection. "I appreciate the compliment, guys. I just wouldn't hedge my bets on anything right now," she replied, playfully rubbing the cheek Jisung had kissed and wiping it on Jisung's cheek. Jisung let out a hearty chuckle at the interaction. "You know, maybe you get busted open and brutally beaten up was a good thing," he thought out loud.
Every core computers now have primary control of critical vehicle function.
Jisung and Chris. Oh, it was supposed to be Jiwoo speaking. Wow, that was a typo. Jiwoo let out a hearty chuckle at the interaction. "You know, maybe you getting busted open and brutally beaten up was a good thing," he thought out loud. Jisung and Chris looked in his direction. "What do you mean?" Jisung asked. "Didn't you tell me you guys met in the hospital the night you had that match with Rim?" Jiwoo asked. "If you guys hadn't met in that hospital, I don't think she would have resigned. I don't think she would have re-signed and be as happy as she is right now," he followed up, pointing at Chris. "That's true," Jisung nodded, realizing what Jiwoo meant. "I was also kind of miserable and overworking myself pretty hard." "See? It was meant to be," Jiwoo smiled like a proud dad. "Just make sure to send me an invite to the wedding," he joked as he earned a swift punch in the arm. "Don't worry, you'll be my maid of honor and you'll have the second prettiest dress of them all," Chris chuckled. "I guess I'll take second prettiest," Jiwoo shrugged and laughed. "Such a shame. We all know I can rock a dress." "Yes, because the big muscle man wrestler can rock a blue floor-length dress," Jisung sarcastically joked. "He might look stunning in a dress, but he would upstage us for sure," Chris added while laughing. "Can't have the KGP World Champion upstaging us at our own wedding," Jisung laughed. "I'm sure there'll be another champion that'll upstage even me," Jiwoo joked, but the underlying tone was half serious. He noticed how Jisung and Chris looked at one another. Chris was called by the production team to run through her entrance one last time before moving on. "I guess they want one more," Chris sighed as she leaned in and gave Jisung a quick kiss. "I probably won't see you again until after the show, so please behave." "You know I won't," Jisung joked. Chris gave him a light shove in response. Jisung laughed as he pulled Chris in for one more kiss. Chris walked back to the stage, leaving Jisung and Jiwoo alone. Jiwoo chuckled a little before speaking what was on his mind. "You do realize you're a positive influence for her, right?" he asked. "What do you mean?" Jisung asked as he kept watching Chris walk away. "Before, she would just be on the grind. She would do her job and nothing else. While she is damn good at her job, it was really all she had. But after she met you, she's been happier with everything," Jiwoo answered. "I noticed a change since she started working on coming back. You've motivated her in a weird way." Jisung nodded as the music started playing. He thought about how Chris influenced himself. He worked harder, but not to the point of overexertion. He became more attentive to detail of his work. He was also happier. He glanced up at Chris doing her entrance routine. She perched herself up on the ring post like a cat and looked around the empty stadium. He smiled to himself, watching her do the thing she loves most. Here we go. This is it. This is the moment. I would say this is the WrestleMania moment, but it's kind of the same. Cheers from the crowd roared as new tag team champions were crowned. Chris took deep breaths as the KGP Women's Championship match was next. She went through her normal pre-match routine. She was never one to be anxious over a match, but this was different. She has had a title match at Call of the Champions before. She was the hotshot heel who was on a hot streak that was humbled by Subi. This time, she's the babyface looking for revenge. She did not want to defeat the champion. She wanted to defeat Rim Tanaka. Cat Carnage wanted to defeat Rim Tanaka. Christina Ahn wanted to defeat Lee Yadin. The feud grew personal behind the curtains. Chris took a few deep breaths before her cue. Right before she left, Changmin walked up to her. "Before you go out there, the finish changed." Changmin smiled as he began telling her the finish. Chris kept a poker face as he was telling her the new finish. She nodded as her music hit. Getting into character, Kat walked out on stage with confidence. The crowd cheered loudly. Louder than they have ever cheered for her. Or even booed her, for that matter. She strutted down the ramp. Her gear consisted of a sapphire blue two-piece. Both were laced with jewels. Her boots were black with blue swirl designs to mimic a cat's tail. Her freshly dyed blue hair was curled to frame her face. She was beautiful. The crowd could clearly see that. She did her routine like normal, exactly as rehearsed. She smiled, looking at the crowd, taking it all in. This was her moment. Rim Tanaka's music hit. The boos poured in as she slowly made her way to the ring. She was wearing a white and gold two-piece along with a white cowboy hat, edges sparkling with gold. She looked like $1,000,000, especially with the championship belt around her waist. She climbed in the ring and flashed the crowd her title. Kat rolled her eyes in annoyance as she looked around in the crowd. She spotted Jisung sitting with his friends in the front row. She gave him a wink before turning her attention to the ring. The ring announcer looked at Rim and Kat before doing his job. The following contest, scheduled for one fall, is for the Korea Grand Prix Women's Championship. Introducing the challenger, the Fatal Feline, Cat Carnage! The crowd cheered as she strutted to the center of the ring, arms out in confidence, taking in the cheers. And her opponent, the Korea Grand Prix Women's Champion, the Shotgun Kid, Rim Tanaka! The crowd boos as Rim holds up the belt proudly. She hands the belt to the referee, who then held it up for the crowd, the gold belt glistening in the stadium lights. A few moments later, the bell rang, indicating the start of the match. Kat and Rim stared each other down for a few moments, taking in the atmosphere. The two locked up in a tie-up to start the match. Kat pulled Rim into a headlock, starting things off slow. The two kept going back and forth until Rim shoved Kat. Kat responded with a clothesline, knocking Rim to the ground. Cat Carnage. Yes, that is her name. Knocking her down to the ground. The crowd cheered for the small move. She then pulled Rim up and threw her into the ropes. The momentum carried Rim from rope to rope, but the momentum crashed to a halt when she was hit with another clothesline. Kat went for the cover, but Rim kicked out after one. Rim rolled over to get up and caught Kat in a chokehold. Kat quickly reversed the hold as she isolated Rim's right arm. The two keep countering every move they threw at each other. They had one another scouted very well. Out of nowhere, Kat was hit with a super kick. She took another super kick and was knocked to the ground. Rim went for the cover, but Cat kicked out after 2. Rim kept slamming Cat's shoulders to the ground in an attempt to pin her over and over. After the 3rd time Cat kicked out, Rim stood up and dragged her to the center of the ring. Rim then hurriedly went to the ring post and started climbing. Rim went for the frog splash, but Cat got her knees up in time. The crowd started cheering when Cat quickly got up and hit Rim with a kick to the head. Rim was knocked down, and Cat took this chance to climb the ropes. She hit her moonsault and connected the move. She went for the cover, but Rim kicked out at 2. Cat sat up with an expression that read confusion and determination. She was struck in the back of the head to pull her out of her thoughts. She turned to face Rim and they started trading blows. The trades ended with Cat hitting hard with an enziguri. Rim was stunned for a few moments. Cat capitalized on this opportunity to use her finisher, Cat's Cradle. She hopped on the second rope for the springboard moonsault to combo into a DDT. She hit it perfectly. She pinned Rim, but she kicked out at 2. Cat appeared extremely shocked at the kickout. Hardly anybody kicked out of Cat's Cradle. She pulled Rim up by the head and ran her through the ropes. Rim saw this through and surprised Cat with shotgun shell. She rolled and hopped for the dropkick. Cat stumbled backwards into the ropes, which was what she needed. She used the ropes for momentum to use her secret weapon, the spear. The crowd reacted loud with cheers when they saw Cat use the spear. Rim took the hit and was slow to recover. Cat seized the opportunity to climb the ropes. With a deep breath, she hit a corkscrew moonsault and combined it with the DDT, a modified Cat's Cradle. She hooked Rim's leg and pinned her. 1, 2, 3. And new Korea Grand Prix Women's Champion, Cat Carnage! Loud cheers drowned the stadium. Cat stood up when the referee pulled her arm to lift it up. She was handed the belt and looked at it with so much care. She held the belt up for the crowd to see. She climbed the ropes to show off that she was the new champion. Scanning the crowd, she found her person, Jisung. She smiled, seeing him cheer loudly for her. This was her moment.
Emotional damage!
Why the emotional damage? That was Cat's moment. The show had been over for a couple of hours. Jisung was searching for someone with haste. He quickly bowed his head to the people greeting him as he walked through the backstage area. He walked towards a staircase and found a lone figure there. He did not think much of it until he caught a flash of blue. He turned his attention to the person sitting in the stairwell. There you are! Jisung smiled as he sat down on the step behind the person. Chris held the belt in her hands, staring at it. She was still in her ring gear, hair disheveled from the match, and makeup slightly smudged. She still looked gorgeous in Jisung's eyes. Jisung wrapped his arm around her shoulder and placed his head on her shoulder. You were amazing out there, he complimented her. Thank you, Chris replied quietly. Would you believe me if I told you they told me I was getting this belt literally right before I walked out there? She chuckled, seemingly in disbelief. I would not have known, Jisung chuckled with her. You deserve it either way. Also, how long were you working on that move? The modified Cat's Cradle? Chris asked, chuckling at his excitement. That was something I was keeping a secret for a while. I'm glad I was able to use it to its fullest. Hold on real quick. Sorry about that. Alright. All of your hard work paid off, Jisung said as he tightened his hold on her. I'm so proud of you. Chris looked away from him. Stop it. You're gonna make me cry, she softly said. It's okay to cry, Jisung said. How many times have you seen me cry when I'm overwhelmed? He chuckled as he kissed her cheek. Chris turned to look at him with watery eyes. You know I don't like crying, she quietly scolded him. I know, Jisung quietly replied. He leaned in for a quick kiss. As much as I want to stay here, I've got a surprise for you. Chris pulled back in shock. A surprise? Jisung nodded as he stood up. Yes, a surprise. So come on, let's go. He smiled as he held her hand. She slung the belt over her left shoulder, and Jisung led the way. They walked through the backstage area for a few minutes until they arrived at the doors. Jisung smiled at the two people waiting for them. Two men, similar height. One of them clearly older than the other, but with a familiar look to them. Chris looked at the two men, then back at Jisung. What is this? She asked, suspicions rising. Do you know how anxiety-inducing it is to call a complete stranger saying you're dating their daughter? Jisung asked, playing up the dramatics. Chris let go of Jisung's hand and walked up to the older man. The man smiled at her. Do you know how anxiety-inducing it is to come here to finally meet your daughter after all these years? He asked, playing up the dramatics just as Jisung did. Chris did not reply. Instead, she hugged the man tight. Jisung smiled proudly to himself on a job well done, making a mental note to thank Mino later. See, Jonah here has known about you for a while, but never really got a chance to see you, Jisung explained. Thank you for the posture check and the hydrate. Doing the posture check now and grabbing the hydrate. Chris pulled away from the hug and adjusted her championship belt. Why haven't you reached out before? She asked, finally taking in her father's appearance. Jonah placed a hand on her shoulder and laughed sadly. Word of advice. Never stick your dick in crazy, he simply said as it told Chris everything she needed to know. Say less. Chris laughed. So, who's this? She asked, motioning to the other man standing there. This is Jaehyun, my stepson, Jonah introduced. Mom wanted to be here, but she didn't want to intrude on anything, Jaehyun politely said as he shook Chris's hand. Chris looked back at Jisung, who just smiled lovingly at her. She pulled Jisung in for a tight hug. Thank you, she whispered. Love you. Jisung whispered back, double making sure to thank Mino later. So, Jisung arranged for her to meet her father for the very first time. It's so sweet. And now it's the last chapter. It's just a short little epilogue. So we got a little bit left to go. Jisung released a sigh as he leaned back in his chair with a smirk. Chan looked over at him and smiled. Finally finished with your songs? He asked. Just sent them off to the label. No more stress. Jisung smiled as he spun around in his chair. I also finally ordered The Thing, he added in a secretive tone. The Thing? Chan asked, confused. Tell me you know what The Thing is, Changbin asked, acting shocked. Please inform me, Chan requested as he turned around in his chair and crossed his arms. You know, the thing. Jisung honored the request cryptically. No, I don't know. What is the thing? Chan replied, clearly confused. He is so uncultured. Changbin shook his head. Hashtag Battletoads! Yes, the thing is Battletoads. That's so unfortunate, Jisung added as he moved his chair so Chan can see what was on his computer screen. Hashtag, what even is Battletoads? Chan rolled in his chair to scoot closer to Jisung. He looked at the monitor carefully and immediately understood what the thing was. Oh, that's what the thing is. Nice that you finally have that ordered, Chan said as he scooted back to his spot. Think she'll like it? Jisung asked, tone dropping to one of uncertainty. Have some confidence in yourself, Changbin gently kicked Jisung's legs. I think she'll love it, especially since it's coming from you. Changbin's right, Chan spoke up. You need to have more confidence in yourself, and if you need our help with it, we're right here. Jisung smiled at Chan and Changbin. He lost himself in his thoughts for a few moments, thinking about what the next step was going to be. Chris released a heavy sigh as she walked through the front door of the house. She kicked her shoes off. Hashtag engagement fish boxers. Oh, the fish boxers. I don't know if you were there for that reference. I don't know if you were around for the reference. It was in an earlier chapter. Chris released a heavy sigh as she walked through the front door of the house. She kicked her shoes off and walked to the living room where Jisung was sitting. He had set up a small camp filled with pillows and blankets and an abundance of popcorn. Chris walked up to Jisung, championship belt still draped on her shoulder, and fell face first onto the couch. Hashtag every kiss begins with fish boxers. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% Bradley. That good? Jisung asked, laughing at the comedic display. Can't I just go back to being a heel? Chris sighed as she rolled over to lay on her back. I don't want to be good anymore, she started whining. I think people will like you no matter what you do, Jisung comforted as he ate some popcorn. Chris looked at Jisung and reached over to eat popcorn herself. I think you're right. But I'm much more natural as a heel. When I'm a good guy, I have to choose my words extremely carefully, and that's annoying. Words are hard, Jisung simply said as he played the movie. Wow, thank you for your words of wisdom, Han Jisung, Chris sarcastically replied as she hopped to the floor and covered Jisung and herself with a blanket. Yeesh, the Healy freedom. Yeah. I try my best. I should put that in a song, maybe. Jisung laughed as he wrapped an arm around her shoulder. It'll be #1 hit in weeks. Chris laughed as she snuggled closer to Jisung. Have I ever told you that your music is extremely good? I don't know if you ever said it like that before, Jisung answered with a smirk. Maybe you should say it more. Chris gently elbowed Jisung. Your music is amazing, and I'm proud of you for working so hard on it, she told him. Jisung looked at her and saw nothing but pure intentions. He fiddled with something in his pocket for a few seconds before just going for it. He pulled out a small blue box and showed it to Chris. She looked at the box, then back at him. I know I'm doing things unconventionally, but I feel like this is right, he said, fiddling with the box. When we first met, I never would have thought that we would be together like this. I mean, you knocked popcorn out of my hands and now we're here, living together and eating, well, popcorn. He nervously laughed. He looked Chris in the eyes and continued. You've helped push me to be the best I can be, and I know I've done the same for you, so... He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring with a single sapphire. I want to continue to push each other to do nothing but our best. Will you marry me? Chris looked at the ring in awe. She took in every word he said. She smiled as she held out her left hand. Yes, Jisung, she smiled. Jisung smiled brightly as he carefully placed the ring on Chris's finger. I'm a little relieved, but also nervous, he laughed. I'm going to guess you had something extravagant planned, and you just jumped on the moment forgetting the entire plan, Chris simply replied. Jisung stared at her blankly. It's like you know me or something, he chuckled. It's almost been a year. Ample time to get to know someone. Chris shrugged as she kept looking at the ring. If you want to run it back so your friends won't be mad, we can do that. Jisung started laughing. I think my friends would greatly appreciate that, he said through his laughter. I can always beat them up for you if they're mad, Chris nonchalantly replied. I know several submissions, and I damn near killed Chunbin that one time. Jisung could not control his laughter. Chris chuckled, seeing Jisung laughing maniacally. You can fight my friends while I play sick beats in the background, he suggested. The perfect combination, Chris laughed out loud. The two laughed at their suggestions for the rest of the night, completely ignoring the movie on the TV. And that is it! That was the end! Yay! Looking out for the, so tell me, how did it happen? Well, like later, you know, when they like talk to their future kids or whatever, it's like, how did you meet mommy? Well, she knocked popcorn out of my hand one time. Thank you. And that was, it was a story called Face Turn. And that was the Wrestling AU story I have hyped up for a while. And yes, thank you guys. So it was fun getting to read this for you. It was so much fun. Alright. That did not play. That's weird. Anyway. Alright, so that will be it for today. Hold on, give me a second. Because that sound alert did not play. And I want to see if I can fix it. Which is very strange. Because all of the other alerts were working. Always love your fanfics. Well, thank you. And thank you for the hydrate, DA. Yeah, that's kind of weird how that wasn't working. Let me see. Alright, let me see. Oh, there it goes! It was just a little behind, because sometimes that happens. So, yeah. Seeing if I can stack the fish boxers underneath the Tessa to make it seem like Tessa's wearing fish boxers. I love it. It's great. It's great. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So that will be it. The next follower goal is at 250, and I am currently working on a Mafia AU story, which, thinking about all the plot points I want to hit, oh, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if we hit 250 followers, we'll read the Mafia AU story. Thank you for the fanfic. You are very welcome. And, you know, just talking about like the fanfics and stuff has gotten me back into writing, and I really enjoy writing. So, yeah, that will be it for today. Rest of the week. Tomorrow will be Pokemon Coliseum because I didn't stream Monday and the schedule's kind of getting a little flip-flopped, so it'll be Pokemon Coliseum tomorrow. And hopefully we can get to Final Fantasy X on Friday and beat the game. That's what I am hoping for. So, let's see here. And the person that I wanted to raid today is live. Riley, you don't need to be screaming. I know you're excited. Very nice. Nice, DA. Knocks on IKEA wood. Yes. Alright, so we are going to go raid. I am Royal Blue. She is awesome. She is amazing. And this is her first stream back, I think, because I saw in her schedule on her Discord that that she was going live today, and I really wanted to raid her today because I like Royal Blue. She's really nice. She's really funny. And she's just awesome. So we're gonna go raid I Am Royal Blue. So, again, so yeah, tomorrow's Pokemon Coliseum. There's really not much of Pokemon Coliseum left, honestly, because, we kind of peeked ahead a little bit, and there's really not much left, so that'll be fun. Love this one. Thanks for the stream. You are very welcome. And hopefully we can get to 250 and read that Mafia AU story, because I'm loving writing it already, so I'm super excited. Anyway, we're gonna go raid I Am Royal Blue. And thank you everyone for sticking around and listening to the story being told. So, yeah, we'll see ya next time.
Liftoff of Mission 41B, the first flight of the orbital Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower. Discovery's core computers now have primary control.